Welcome to the Go Shout Love podcast. I am Seth Carnell. I want to begin this episode by getting some of our quick disclaimers out of the way so that you can simply enjoy and engage in this conversation. If you are listening for the first time, or if you think of subscribing to Go Shout Love to help support families like this one that you are about to hear, then please, when you go to check out, use the discount code PODCAST and you will get $5 off your first month. Also, we do this not only to share stories like these, but to help grow a community. Not necessarily a Go Shout Love community, but one of people who want to support families who have kids on rare medical journeys, or people who might be beginning a journey similar to this one. All that to say that when you rate and review us on whatever platform you are listening on right now, that helps grow our community. Okay, here we go. Today we are talking to Jon and Tameka Diaz, who are the parents to three amazing girls, one of which is a 3.5-year-old named Evely. Evely starts her life by having the condition anophthalmia, which simply put means she was born without eyes. There are other diagnoses that follow this one a little further down the road, and that adds to the uniqueness of this story and this family and their journey. I will let them tell you all about it, but I will tell you it is fascinating. They will also look at a topic that comes up a lot with our Go Shout Love families, constant grief. Again, I'm just going to let them speak into that because the insight that they have is enlightening. It includes processing the bittersweetness of raising multiple kids when one has conditions like Evely's. This is a great conversation with a couple that makes listening to it very easy and enjoyable with their amazing personalities. I could not oversell it. This is a good listen. Leading this conversation is one of our co-directors and gifted interviewers, Josh Veach, and of course, our talented photographer and family relations director, Jessica Santo. Listeners, shouters, please enjoy.
Jon and Tameka, thanks so much for taking time to chat with us. And it's been awesome to spend time with your family and your little girls.
Yeah.
They're
Thank
adorable.
you guys for being here.
Appreciate it.
It's our pleasure. And before we're going to be talking a lot about Evely and kind of her impact on your family. But before we jump into that, you have two other daughters that are adorable. And so I want you to just tell us their name, their age, and then 2 words each to describe them.
Okay.
If you can sum it up in 2 words.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, Luna is our oldest. She is 5. I would say that Luna is kind and smart.
Yeah.
You agree with that?
100% I do. Yeah. And Sky, or Avani Sky, is our youngest. She's 2 years old. And I would say that she is strong-willed, is one.
Currently,
strong-willed. And she is a mommy's girl.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
So Evely is 3.5 years old.
Yes.
And she'll turn 4 in December, right? Can you give us a brief rundown on her medical journey so far?
Yeah. Pregnancy with Evely was very typical. Smooth, actually.
Yeah.
It was very smooth. And everything just really, I guess, went left or changed the day she was born. We didn't know anything about any of her diagnoses until the day she was born. So the night after she was born is when we learned anophthalmia. Like probably you guys, us, and some people even in the medical field had never heard this word before. And it means that her eyes were underdeveloped or did not develop in utero. So Evely was born without eyes. And that was really something that was really hard for us to fathom initially. Like, we know that people are born blind. We know that there are people who can't see. But just to not have eyes, like, kind of threw us.
Yeah,
like,
it didn't make sense initially. It was our faces were, we had that, what do you mean face?
Yeah, like, what?
Yeah.
And at this point, I'm assuming she just had her eyes closed, being a newborn baby.
Right.
Yes.
So that wasn't something that you were thinking about right when she was born.
No, and then the way that we found out, the midwife that helped us out with the pregnancy, she was taking some pictures initially, and she noticed that Everly was not reacting to the flashes. And I think it was by mistake she had the flash on, and it was once or twice, and she actually did it a couple more times just because of the curiosity.
Yeah.
She actually took me aside and left while Tameka was breastfeeding her. She took me to another room, and she told me, she's like, hey, listen, I don't want you to worry, or I don't want you to worry your wife yet, but I am concerned because she's not reacting to the flashes. She's like, we're gonna go in there. I'm gonna take her, and you're gonna come with me into a different room, and we're gonna give her a more thorough exam because of my concerns. And I said, okay. But she told me, she's like, don't. She just had the baby, right? Naturally, with nothing, no medicine, anything. She's like, she's extremely exhausted. Let's give her a chance. So we went into the other room, and that's when she said, she looked into her eyes, and she's like, I can't see anything in there, which is, again, very concerning. So my daughter was hours old, if that, and I had to drive her to the emergency room, luckily, which was only a block and a half away.
Because were you guys at a hospital?
We were at a birthing center.
Okay.
But the birthing center was right up the road from the hospital.
Street.
Right.
But we'd had ultrasounds, even though we had gone through.
Is that something
midwife.
that's typically detected on an ultrasound?
No, that's
Could
not.
they ever detect that?
Yes, they could. Actually, with our third, I can't even tell you what I felt during the ultrasound, where they said, okay, we can see lenses.
Yep.
We can see that she actually have eyes.
But it's
they
not
won't
typical to look for.
Right. They don't look for it. They don't look for it unless you're in a situation like us where you have a child that was born without eyes. It's not something that they would normally check for doing we had an anatomy scan, and everything, they told us everything was perfect. Everything looked good, and she was happy and healthy is what they told us. So, like Jon said, just a few hours old, the midwife was saying
it was
that
pouring raining outside,
yes,
and I had
in
to
December.
take my daughter in the car, right, by myself, because the midwife was making sure that she was okay and getting her ready to go to the hospital. Went into the hospital. Luckily, they knew that, I told them, hey, I got a newborn. I told them the situation. They kind of skipped me right to the front, got me into a checkout room, and
What did you say when you checked into that ER?
Honestly, I can't exactly remember what I said, but I told her pretty much exactly what the midwife told me. We had concerns because there was flashes. She wasn't responding, and when the midwife did a thorough check of her eyes, she couldn't see anything.
And she also had tumors that were inside.
It looked like a black and blue.
It looked like black and blue.
And the midwife said that sometimes babies during the delivery can get hit.
And that's what I was thinking. All of my children came extremely fast. I did not have
long labors.
at all. So I'm thinking, well, this happened super fast. Like
She might have
bumped her head on the way out.
Exactly.
So unfortunately, that was not the case. And I can remember Jon calling me from the hospital. Well, I was still at the birthing center. She just wanted to make sure everything was good with me as far as blood sugar and everything and hydration, and before taking me over there, because I was kind of, arguing with her that, I need to be at the hospital, and she's like, well, you can't go over there if you're not physically, you just had a baby. I need you to physically be ready, because I don't know what they're going to say. And you can't take care of her unless you take care of yourself.
Sounds like you had a really great midwife who was really looking out for you.
She was absolutely amazing. In that moment, I was so angry with her.
There was a couple of times that you were angry with her.
It was.
but because she was doing what she needed to do. She was doing her job.
She was.
She was doing her
Well,
job.
and even the foresight to pull you aside separately and say, hey,
Yes.
this is what's going on.
Yeah.
It may be nothing.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to cause an alarm that's not necessary. So
She allowed Everly and I to have that initial bonding time, just like any other birth.
Yeah.
And I appreciate her.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me not to get emotional when I think about that part, because it got so crazy after that. But that little moment of peace right before. It was very quiet. It was very intimate. We napped together and everything. And I truly value her. I can never repay her for what she gave me on that day, because I know if we had been anywhere else, it would have been, Emily would have been out. They would have seen a difference, and then she would have been swapped, just taken right away from me. But she kept her composure, and she was the very first person to treat Emily like any other child, even not knowing, or whether she did know, immediately what was going on. She gave us that. I could never repay her for that. And even though, she made me mad during the journey a few times, but I know it was because it came from a very loving place.
Absolutely.
And I love and trusted her so much. She delivered Sky, and she took care.
And you got mad at her with Sky too. Because because with Sky, and the quick little segue here, going off the topic, but I think this was funny when she was pregnant with Sky, we were here in the house, and she told me, the midwife, she's like, all right, it's time, get your wife in the car and come to the birthing center. And my wife was saying, no, I'm not leaving the house because I'm not going to be able to make it. I'm not going to go do it. And I kept telling her.
I knew
and I'm telling the midwife on the phone, like, she's saying no. She's like, put her on the phone right now. And I put her on the phone, and I can hear her yelling at my wife, telling her, you get in the car right now. And she's like, okay, I'm ready. Let's go.
And I told her on the phone, though, I was like, I'll go, but we're not going to make it.
And we didn't.
I'm only going so that I can tell you afterwards that I was right.
No. We didn't. Sky was born in the back seat.
In the back of my
Are you serious?
I have the picture of me cutting her umbilical cord in the back
in the back seat of the car.
2009 Altima, baby. Yep. So she was right, but I would have rather hit. But here's the good thing, right? At least we made it.
That's such a huge point that you lead off a conversation with, and you just so casually. We didn't.
We didn't make it. No.
We didn't.
We didn't.
No, we didn't.
But luckily we made it to the parking lot of the birthing center.
But she knew.
Amazing, this lady.
Yeah, she's amazing. Yeah. She knew that when I said I wasn't going to make it, she knew I wasn't going to make it. So she had everything that she needed in the parking lot.
Outside in the parking lot. Yep, her helper, herself. She had all the.
What's her first name?
She had her cart and everything.
Yeah, with Amy.
Shout out to Amy.
Shout out
amazing.
To Amy.
Yes,
Amy is amazing. Amy at Blessed Birth.
And another thing that she helped us out with is kind of back to the Everly thing when we were in the hospital and Everly was in the NICU. And shout out to Greenville Hospital Center. They treated us very well. But in a state of mind that you're in as a parent, when you're going through things like that, things can seem a little bit more hectic, and you might seem like you're not getting the attention that you need or the answers that you need. Amy came into the hospital like she ran this place and demanded answers, demanded doctors, demanded this,
she did. She
was an advocate.
I was just about to say that. I was about to say that day, Amy showed me the importance of being an advocate for Everly, for my family. Like, she showed me that day. She told them, you're not going to send this mother home. She doesn't know what's going on.
Right. That's what it was.
Everly was a patient, but I wasn't.
Yep. So we didn't get a room.
But Amy, she didn't care. And she didn't care that it was December the 23rd, 2 days before Christmas. And she didn't care who was on holiday vacation. And she didn't care any of that. She made sure I stayed in that hospital with Everly. She got me my own room.
And she got her room. She got her the room.
She got me a room. That's amazing. I was able to go and be with Everly as much as, I could, and as much as she needed me to be because of Amy.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, Amy gave me my first lesson on advocacy.
So switching kind of through that process, at the end of the day, you still just thought that all that was going on was that Everly was blind.
Yes. When
And
we
that-
left the hospital 5 days later, we were in a NICU for 5 days.
Yep.
And
And mind you, the reason we were there 5 days is because initially
it was the holiday.
Yeah, and not just that. It's just when a baby is born with that big of a difference, or that issues are that big, and there's nothing for them to say, oh, we know exactly what it is. They put them through the ringer as far as tests, because they don't know if this is a symptom from something bigger or different, or it's just something that's part of exactly. So because she went through the ringer, she went through all types of neurological tests, cardiac tests, and GI tests,
full body scans,
the works, right?
Like she lost weight while we
yeah.
were there, like a significant amount of weight,
Yep.
because half the time while we were there, I wasn't even allowed to nurse her because of all the testing that they were doing.
But when we left, we did feel a little bit better because everything turned out negative. Now, there were some little things that they did say about the neurological test initially, that there were some weird waves or something, but nothing that told us, hey, you should be alarmed, there's something else.
When we left that hospital, they told us that Everly would have to adapt, without vision, and we would obviously have to adapt. And they said, but that was it.
Yeah.
They said, other than that, she's perfectly healthy. So
3
we leave
months.
the hospital, and we're like, okay, all right. People are, who are blind, they live full lives.
Absolutely.
They travel, they do this, they have jobs, they have families,
Yes.
they have okay, we can do this. The beginning is going to be hard, teaching her how to be and making her aware of her surroundings. And then 3 months later, boom, Everly has CHD.
Congenital heart disease. Is it
Congenital heart defect.
Defect. Yep. And mind you, so we're taking a family trip on Tybee Island.
Because we need a break.
Yes.
Because we have been hit with the anorexia. Still trying to wrap my mind around how this happened. Because as a mom, and every mom does the same thing anytime something happened with their kid. One of the first things that I said when they told me was like, oh God, what did I do to her? And I'm trying to think of every single thing while I was pregnant. Like, what did I do differently from this pregnancy than I did from my older, daughter's pregnancy? And I'm just can't pinpoint it. I still ate good and, made sure I was very food conscious, and I took my vitamins and I exercised and I saw the doctors regularly, and I, saw my midwife. I didn't skip appointments. And so what happened here? So we're still trying to process this. And then I have all of these people calling me, therapists, the School for the Blind, insurance. So I've been bombarded with all of these things while I'm trying to process, and I'm having to be the one to
And while
organize.
having a newborn.
Yes.
On top of that.
And a toddler. Because Luna was 1.5 years. She was 18 months at this time. So my world was just rocked. And Jon and I were just like, we got to get out of here. We got to get away. Because now we have all of these specialty doctors. Because there was nothing shown when we were in the NICU. Every specialty doctor wanted to see Everly. It was kind of frustrating at first because I felt like she was being treated like a science project. I would see doctors and they would get excited to see her. And because, it's one of those things that we learn about in school, but they tell us that we'll never see it in practice.
Oh, that's hard.
30 years I've been doing this and have never, so everybody wants to see her. And I remember telling Jon, they're treating her like some zoo animal. I'm not okay with this. If
this is your real life and not just a moment
exactly.
for you.
I get it. I get when you see something that's not, typical in your, world of work or whatever, especially scientifically. I know that people who are scientists, I know, how it is. But in that moment, Mama Bear coming out.
Sure, yeah.
And I don't care. That, I don't care how long you've been doing this. A doctor told us that was the genetic specialist. And this you have genetic specialists. They see everything. And so we even have a genetic specialist, like, telling us, yeah, like, we don't ever see this. So,
So about 3 months in is when they diagnosed the CHD.
while
right?
we were on vacation.
Yeah, she was taking it. We were on Tybee Island, right? This is in Georgia. This is like around Savannah, Georgia, right? So we rented a house with some friends, some family friends, right? Which they were there with their kids and everything. And one day, Everly woke up from a nap during the day, and her feet were swollen and blue. And we were worried, so we took her to the hospital because, you know, this is already our fragile little child, right?
I was already on edge because I felt like there was things that was going on or that wasn't going on. And John would come home and I would tell him that the doctors were making me feel like I was crazy.
You could already tell there was more than what they were saying there was.
Yes, but because I didn't have any, what they would consider legitimate symptoms of anything.
Besides your motherly gut instincts.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So I'm telling them, well, I'm having to wake her up to nurse her. Or, when she is awake, she's extremely fussy. So I'm basically telling doctors that my newborn sleeps a lot and cries a lot.
Yeah.
I sounded insane.
Well, and they're thinking, this is a mother overreacting.
Exactly.
But you're saying, this is not my first rodeo. Like, I've
Yes.
seen this play out, and
Yes.
this is different.
Yep.
Yes, I actually said that to one of the doctors. I was like, listen, I might be new to special needs parenting, but I'm not new to parenting. And I know that there is something deeper going on.
Yep.
So when that happened at the beach, like, John and I, we're trying to figure out, we got this list, obviously, of doctors. And I'm like, they don't listen to me anyway. I'm going to call my pediatric doctor. The office is closed. It's after hours. So we get in contact with him. He calls me back. We tell him what's going on. And I was like, and I know this sounds crazy, but she sleeps a lot and she cries a lot. Like, and he was like, well, your mom, if you think something's wrong, something's wrong. I'll order some tests at the local hospital, and then, we can go from there. If it's something that can wait until you guys get home, we'll wait. And if not, we'll come up with a plan from there. And when we were on the way to the hospital, like I was telling John, like, this vacation is over. We were like one day into the vacation. I'm like, this vacation is over.
There's
it was just
something
like,
going on.
It had to, because a lot of the things that I was telling the doctors, they were blaming it on her being blind. Oh, well, with infants, 80% of their, involvement in learning and interaction is all visual. Everything is visual, and they don't really kick in the other senses, especially hearing, until, later on, even when they are capable of seeing and hearing this, everything is, they look around. So that's why she's not, and I'm like, well, she's unhappy.
Yep.
I said, we had never seen her smile. Never. The very first time we saw Everly smile, it was in the middle of the night, and I woke John up, and I was in tears. Because we had never, she was 3 months old. And we had never seen her smile. And I'm like, something is up.
Yeah.
So we get to the hospital, they test her, giving her all of these tests. Well, they come back and they tell us that Everly's heart was failing.
Heart was failing. So from being
horribly.
blind to say your child's heart is failing. So mind you, right, it's already hard to understand, okay, your kid's never going to see again. But that diagnosis didn't scream, hey, your kid can die, right?
Yeah, because they were basically telling us
failure.
that that's the way it was. That's how poor the condition of her heart was at that moment.
So they put my wife and the baby in an ambulance, and they drove for an hour and a half, 2 hours?
To Charleston.
To Charleston, from Savannah. Charleston has one of the most...
And we had to fight for that.
Yeah.
Because the hospital that we were at was so crappy. I remember calling my dad, crying my eyes out, telling him, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going to happen to her, but we have to get her out of this place.
Yeah.
This isn't the place.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
they were very...
we fought.
Yeah.
We called the pediatric doctor. We called one of our best friends whose dad is a cardiologist. We were like, help us. Please help us get her out. So we were able to get her transferred to Charleston.
And MUSC. It's one of the best pediatric cardiologists, just all around. It's an amazing hospital.
Yeah, like in the nation, they're on one of the like top like heart programs.
Yep.
So that was how far from where you were?
I'd say
Charleston,
2 hours
from where we were.
Yeah,
in
to
Savannah.
about 2 hours.
Yeah.
How far is it from where we are now?
3.
So our 5-day vacation turned into a 24-day ordeal. Yeah. We didn't get back into our house.
Yeah, it was a month later.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
There is still more to go with Jon and Tameka, obviously, because I mentioned that they talk about grief, and so far you have heard nothing about it. But I wanted to take a second to remind you that you can support the Diaz family for the entire month of September by purchasing a t-shirt, hat, mug, or other items. This month's t-shirt, I'm going to tell you, will be popular. I love it already, and I cannot wait to get it in the mail. Half of all proceeds will go to helping the family purchase a safety sleeper bed for Evalie. You can also start a subscription and support families every month. If you don't already have a subscription, let me give a short plug on how intentional you can be with what you do, even down to your clothes. I now have over a dozen Go Shout Love shirts, and although I love how they fit and breathe, what I love most is that every day when I wear a t-shirt, which is about every day, I get to participate in shouting love for families that could use a little bold love. Please join us in shouting love for families like this one.
Coming out of that, they've diagnosed her with this. It's a condition, right? That she's gonna. It's not something they can treat and it goes away, or is it an ongoing concern?
It's an ongoing concern. And again, not only did she have to have a heart problem, it was one of those things where we spent the majority of the time there. They were just actively trying to figure out how to treat her. Because it was another thing. You had doctors that have only been doing children's hearts for 30 years and had never seen a case like Evalie's. So we didn't have any plan. We didn't have, like, you know, when you go and you try to get like a... When you take your kid to the doctor and the doctor says, oh, yes, you know, we've seen this so much, and 80% of the time, this works.
There's some sort of roadmap that they can give you. Here are some potential outcomes.
Yes. We didn't have that with Evalie. And so that was scary because we didn't know what to expect. Also, during that time, we learned that Evalie, it was hard for me to figure out what was going on with her because she didn't have any of the like typical telltale signs that a child is having issues with their heart. So they watched me nurse her, and she not sweat, and her, you know, she nursed efficiently and everything, and they're just like, we don't understand, like, and then the machines.
When you said you nursed her and she didn't sweat, what do you mean by that?
One of the most popular signs, or like something that they see more often than not in heart babies, is when they're feeding.
So it would be like a natural stress test for the
baby. So when they're feeding, they said that, you know, they would be like drenched in sweat
if they had a heart condition,
because it's making their heart work really hard.
Yes, they're having to work really
process.
hard to do, because that's the only thing that they do at that age. You know, so that's the way that they would test a baby, you know, an infant, if they were concerned about their heart. How are they doing during meals? Do they take a full meal? Does meals stress them out? Sweat. So basically, they watched Evalie nurse and told me that Evalie should have, like, they
on
were
the outside, this heart condition is not showing.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. But on the inside, she had pulmonary hypertension. She had 2 holes in her heart. She had a valve that had an extreme leak in it.
Her heart, mitral valve. The mitral valve regurgitation is the term.
And it was severe.
Yeah, severe.
And
I'm going back to the ultrasound, though. Was that
nothing?
But should have.
Nothing.
Should that have been caught on?
And that's one of the things.
Nothing. It was not.
And that's one of the things that they were concerned and asking themselves about. Because I remember they would have conversations amongst themselves. And
I remember flipping out.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm like,
she went through the ringer.
who is this ultrasound tech that did my baby's ultrasound who told me that her heart was healthy during the anatomy? And I asked them to go back and look. And I asked them to go back and look at all the testing that Everly had in the NICU as well.
Right, and that's what I
and
meant
they
when she went through the
told me,
ringer.
they was like, we went back and we reviewed everything. And
so this was an issue that came after?
It came after the film, which is, that in itself is not.
And that's
so it wasn't that they missed it.
No,
it wasn't there.
It wasn't there.
Yeah.
It was not there. That in itself made her situation, that alone, without everything else, made her situation unique.
Mm-hmm. So you guys are not only on this journey that you've talked about as being a puzzle, you're in a journey that has a puzzle where the pieces are constantly changing.
Yes.
Yep.
Or we're getting new pieces.
New pieces being added. Yeah. So I want to make sure that we cover some of the unique elements of your story, and we're going to be sure to cover some of the specific details of the medical journey in the blog post that goes along.
Okay.
And so we'll make sure that's there. But you talked about processing a little bit about, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but a little bit about almost the expectation or what you thought her life might be like.
Yes.
And then getting that initial diagnosis of her being
I think we all
blind.
do that as parents. You know, we learn that we are going to bring life into the world, and we have all of these hopes and dreams for this life. We envision things for our children, lives that are better than the ones that we've had. Lives of, not struggling and just so much. And when we envisioned life for Everly, we did all of those things, the same thing that we would do when we was, pregnant with Luna. Everly, I don't know if you guys realized earlier just watching her feet are constantly moving. Mm-hmm. She was the exact same way when I was pregnant with her. So I would tell Jon, well, this is definitely your child because, she's clearly going to be a soccer player.
Yeah.
Because Jon, a huge soccer fan, and he played soccer as a kid. And so that was one of the things that, we would talk about, like him, playing soccer with her and stuff like that. And so just being hit with the diagnosis and then you realizing that what you thought or how you pictured things and how you imagine your family is not that way. It's a constant grieving process.
Yeah, and I think and sorry to cut you off, but I think like one of the important things for me and the difficult things for me is that the way that this story has unfolded and transitioned is initially, for example, when she was first born, we were told that she was blind and that's it, right? As far as the test. So at that point, okay, maybe she's not going to be a soccer player here, but maybe she can be a soccer player in the Special Olympics, or this and that.
Still do this.
So
like,
Jon,
you see that they make balls with sounds. Like we can adapt.
You try to adapt and you try to move
Yeah.
forward with that, right? But then you get hit with, okay, now she has a congenital heart disease or defect. So how's that going to affect it, right? And it's getting to the point where it's hard to say, but you don't want to set your expectations too high to be not necessarily disappointed, because that's not a good word, but let down as far as your child deserves better, right? And it's hard where you have these expectations and then
our dreams for them
exactly for them, and then to get to the point where you're getting hit with so many boom
boom boom boom boom.
These weird diagnoses, and it's just kind of knocking that pedestal down further and further, where you're getting to the point where you're like, okay, let's just be happy with what she is now. Let's not plan further.
It's so important.
Yeah, because that
is so important.
Because we've been let down so many times by these diagnoses that it's like, okay, my baby's not going to get what we initially thought, and then we're like, we're going to get here. No, we're not going to get there because of this diet. So I don't think we're done with the journey, but I think that we're in a point in the journey where we're dealing with it a little bit better as far as our expectations.
We're handling the grief better.
Yes.
We're realizing that Jon and I have learned that grief is now a part of us.
Yep.
Grief is a part of us. Grief will always be a part of us. Even if from this day forward, Everly received not one more diagnosis, if nothing else, grief will constantly be a part of our journey, because everything that we do with our girls, with Luna, with Sky. Seeing Sky take her first steps, it's bittersweet.
Yes.
Seeing Luna on a stage dancing, it's bittersweet. Everything, every part of the journey as parents, seeing our kids reach these milestones, seeing things for Luna and Sky, comes so naturally. And to see Everly have to struggle every single day for the smallest, or what would appear from the outside to be small, because it's not small in her world at all.
It's a mountain.
So we've learned to really celebrate those moments, because we don't know at this point what we're going to get. Like, if there's anything else after this, we don't know if we would be able to celebrate first steps with Everly. We don't know if we're going to be able to celebrate first words with Everly. So we celebrate the small victories. They're not small.
Yeah.
They're not small. So we make a big deal. We make a huge deal about those things. But it, like I said, it's constant grief. It is constant grief. Seeing everything, seeing friends that I was pregnant with around the same time. They have kids the same age as Everly. And, seeing them, it's everything since Everly has been born has been bittersweet.
Yeah.
But we've accepted that.
Yep.
We know this. We know that grief is who we are now. So, okay, how do we deal with this grief? Okay, if we know that going to see Luna perform on a stage or see her in gymnastics or whatever is going to make us happy, extremely happy, and extremely sad, like, how do we deal with this? So, we support each other in our grief, because everybody handles grief differently. Mm-hmm. So Jon, he spends a lot of time at the gym. It is a stress reliever for him. It's a sacrifice that we made as a family, because obviously I would love for him to be home in the evenings with me, after being home with the girls all day. But I know that for him to be the best husband and the best father, that, like, this is what he needs to deal with what he has going on, and so that he can process it. So it's a sacrifice that we make, and we make it work. I think we do pretty good.
I agree. Yeah.
How do you handle your grief?
I think I'm still figuring it out.
I know one of the things that that I tried to push for her to get to do is sing more. One of the things that I met her, she's a singer, she's a musician, she has a beautiful voice. Is one of the main reasons I fell in love with her. But yeah, and I know it's one of those things, right, that you go out there, and I'm pretty sure, and I don't want to be talking for you, but I'm sure when you're up there and you're singing,
absolutely,
the last thing you're thinking about is, how are we going to handle this surgery next month? Or
absolutely.
And it's one of those things that I envy about you, is as far as, your profession, as far as what, at least before we were parents, when we were just a married couple, when going into it, as, one of those things is, you sing for a living, right? I can honestly say that, I'm an IT professional. I like what I do, but I'm not going to be truthful and say I love going to work and building servers and doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
I like it. I enjoy it. It's challenging, but singing is one of the things that, I envy the people that can get up and honestly say, hey, I love what I do for a living. That's amazing. Not everybody can have that. So with her, I believe that, one of the things that we try to do as far as sacrifice, and I've been trying to tell her, get back into the scene,
He does. He pushes me to do it.
Because I know it helps, because I see it when she comes back.
Too, that as much as that is, I'm sure, a personal outlet for you.
It is.
It's also naturally equipped you to parent the unique situation that Everly's in.
Yeah.
We were at the park with you guys just a little bit ago and captured this really cool moment of you singing "You Are My Sunshine," and you could just see this shift in demeanor in Everly.
Yeah.
And that's a mom's voice. That's
Absolutely.
a gifted mom's singer's voice.
My kids do not react that way when I sing.
Music have always played a huge role in my life, but because of music now, like, I think that the connection that Evely and I
It's
have,
amazing.
I think music gives us that connection.
And I think there's something to say too with that. With you see your other kids do these amazing things, and you want that for your Evely, but you see other things that Evely gives you that your other daughters can't.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's the beautiful thing.
Evely has a light, and it is beautiful, and it shines very, very bright.
She is innocent. She cannot do wrong. That kid. Seriously, it's like even when the little things that she does, when we make believe fuss at her, but we don't mean it. And if she ever
conversations when John call and he's like, "How's everything going?" I'm like, "Evely's about to get in trouble," and he's like, "Whatever."
We both know that's not true.
Like Evely's in trouble. It's like whatever. Evely can never get into trouble. Yeah. So Evely, she is extremely unique, and there is no recorded case like hers. And she is, I don't know, even her heart rhythms. We had to take her off the machines in the hospital because it kept making everything go crazy. And we learned that she even has her own heart rhythm.
It's just her.
So it's just her. It doesn't necessarily mean something's wrong. It's like, so we've always said that she literally beats to her own drum.
Before you turn this off, I have great news for you. This is actually just part 1 of this conversation with Jon and Tameka. There is another episode all ready for you that is just as engaging as this one. And since I know that you fell in love listening to them talk already, I know you will enjoy part 2 just as much, if not more. We hear more about Luna and how she is reacting to life changing when Evely comes along with her conditions, and what that means as a big sister, and how she has embraced it. Before you listen to that, please rate and review the Go Shout Love podcast wherever you are listening. I sound like a broken record, but I want this to spread to people who could be blessed by hearing it. And after you're done doing that, go and shout some love. Thanks.